Hi, my name's Chris, and this is GM Log number 2. Recapping last week, the campaign started with two crews or pieces of crews from different time periods being thrown together. It ended up being the unnamed aliens from the Next Generation episode, The Chase. The aliens that scattered their genetic code across the universe so they wouldn't be alone. Anyway, they pulled these two crews together because of a threat. And that threat is that the Borg had learned of the presence and the existence of the Q continuum and were working to try to assimilate it. They had found a nebula where the Q's powers were rendered inert, and it also happened to be a space where the continuum and our galaxy or our universe were the closest together. So, in this episode, or this session, we are taken to the planet Gateway. You remember Gateway from the city on the edge of forever, where the Guardian of Forever lives, resides, exists. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, right? And the cool thing about this was at the end of the first episode, they were thrown. Thrown from this kind of utopian existence to Gateway. And, the only real images of Gateway are what we have from the original series. So you've got, the old 60s sets, but you can still imagine it because you still have, the ruins and the rubble, and you have everything just kind of decaying around this giant stone donut. So, upon getting there, one of the things I did was I tried to have the party do the things that they would normally do when presented with an unfamiliar terrain. They did some searches. They used their tricorders, things like that. The Guardian itself still would have been classified to both time periods, so they are not aware of what it does at this point. But they know that one of the Q that were sent into the nebula to try to stop the Borg fled here after he failed. So, and the Q are fairly dangerous anyway, but I thought it would be fun to do a couple of things. So first off, what would happen if you came across a Q that maybe wasn't entirely in control of his mental faculties? And two, what would it be like for a Q to kind of have his powers on the fritz and be quasi-dependent on something other than his own ability to do something? So that was kind of where I was going with this. I didn't want him necessarily to be... You know what? I'm not going to go into his motivations, because if you're playing in my game and you're watching this, I don't necessarily want you to know what I'm going to do with him, because he still has a part to play. But what I really enjoyed is that with the dynamic of the party, we are able to do a variety of different things. You've got your command staff, you've got your engineer and your tactical, you've got medical, and then kind of the wild card is you have this Betazoid empath who is able to do some things that the other crew members aren't able to do. So it opens up some avenues, I think. Some different things that we're able to do and that the crew is able to do that they wouldn't otherwise be able to. So that is, I think overall the dynamic of the crew is really great. So I'm going to stop for just a second and I want to talk about, what am I trying to accomplish with this video series? Is it a summary? It is to an extent, because I don't necessarily think the intended audience is just the players in the campaign. I think the intended audience is also, people who are interested in Star Trek adventures, or maybe people that are interested in sometimes taking on that game master mantle, right? So a couple of things. If you watch the first episode, I did say I don't have every piece of the rulebook memorized. I use the rulebook very lightly. It is only there to prop up the story I'm trying to tell. And one of my players is a fan of the detail that's in the rule book, and I made the comment to him, I'm like, I'm surprised you are in my games, because I don't put stock in, well, that's not true, I put stock in the rules, but I don't make sure everything conforms to the letter of the law. And he made the comment, he's like, look, we get to put dice rolls together, there's some math there. So I think that just goes to show you that you can have a variety of different players in your party. But back to the original question, I don't know that my intended audience is specifically for one of these two groups. I also know the danger of having the players in this campaign watch this is I might tip my hand. Or maybe they'll think I'm tipping my hand and I'm really just misleading them. But either way, I think it helps me from an organizational perspective to just be able to come out here and talk about the game and talk about the experience, just to help me kind of figure things out. One of the things, when confronted with this queue, that I thought was very interesting is the line of questioning. So it's like trying to question somebody who may or may not mentally be there. And what they learned was that the Borg learned of the presence of the continuum through Picard's assimilation. But that doesn't necessarily tell the party how they learned of the nebula, or how they learned that they would be safe there, and how they learned that this is the spot where it's easiest to gain access. And I use the term easiest, not to imply that it's just walking through a door, right? There's still some doing, but this is the spot where it is most feasible to do something like this. So that, that's the mystery that the crew has in front of them. And I think the very final thing that happened, the queue regained some sense of lucidity through a telepathic connection with a Betazoid. And although his powers are still on the fritz, he did accept the help of the party. And the very last thing he was able to do is he was able to muster enough of his powers to snap them back to the USS Hood, which is where 3 of our players came from. And for the other 3, all of a sudden they've been shoved back about 100 years in the past. And they are in the uniform of the time, and the captain in the party, who is from the Next Generation era, is in the command chair, and the crew, like the helmsman and the navigator, everybody on the bridge when they arrive recognizes and thinks he is the captain. They don't necessarily know anything is out of place. The only 6 that do are the ones that suddenly appeared there. So, next time, they have to figure out why there is a Borg presence in the year 2268, or whatever year that is. So, there are mysteries, and I'm hoping that getting on a ship setting will kind of help settle people into roles. So, yeah, that's the second session in a nutshell. The next one is in a week, so we will see what the crew decides to do in 2268. Thank you for sticking around for my musings/ramblings, and hopefully we'll catch you in another couple of weeks so I can recap you on what happened with the party.